After 7 years, I tried to keep our friendship alive, but they lost interest while I prioritized them, so I finally left the group. Summary: I am from Singapore. A foreign friend of mine, whom I have known for approximately 7 years, was once part of a close-knit group of 4 friends throughout our diploma studies. After graduation, we pursued different paths, various universities, and fulfilling national service, which is obligatory military service for male citizens in Singapore. Recently, he experienced a mental health crisis and sent an emotionally charged message in our group chat. Initially, I found his message somewhat humorous and detected gaslighting undertones. However, nearly 2 months have passed since then, and he has stopped communicating with us, just as we have ceased reaching out to him. I am left wondering whether I have lost a true friend, and whether we have acted insensitively towards him. Below is the text he sent, personal details omitted for privacy. Hello everyone. It seems that sharing my feelings will help clarify things, so here it goes to express myself accurately and authentically, while also giving you insight into my thought process. Let's rewind 5 to 7 years to when we first met. Consider who originally created this group, or who used to organize activities, who took the initiative, who showed more enthusiasm, who genuinely cared more about our friendship. It shouldn't be difficult to uncover the answers to these questions. If you spend a few hours reviewing our old messages, only if you believe I am worthy of your time, it should become clear what those answers are. What did this friendship mean to me? It meant everything. There was not a single day when I wouldn't have enjoyed being with you all. I placed such high importance on our friendship that there were moments I compromised my self-respect and pride just to maintain it. I did not want to lose this connection, viewing all of you as brothers. No exaggeration, I genuinely thought we were like family, and I never wanted to sever that bond. There were occasions when I preferred hanging out with you over anything else. You were my only friends, and I did not exert much effort to form additional long-term friendships, believing it unnecessary. My philosophy was that I didn't need many friends, just a few great ones. Thus, I dedicated all my energy to ensuring our friendship endured even after polytechnic studies. Besides work and academics, I spent my time with you. Although COVID impacted our 3rd year, it wasn't disastrous since we maintained frequent online communication. Overall, I relished our friendship during polytechnic. We met almost daily, making it a highly rewarding experience for me. The highlight of that period was undoubtedly this friendship. While the diploma was valuable, it provided no substantive benefit after entering university. Friendships, in contrast, are nurturing and hold far more long-term significance. I remember that I was the principal initiator of plans during polytechnic, and it was effortless for me. This friendship was the most treasured aspect of my polytechnic experience. People say you cannot romanticize friendships. I wonder why not. That was my perspective. Upon graduating, circumstances changed. We headed in different directions towards national service and university. You all became busier, and we could no longer meet as often naturally. Eventually, I recognized that if I did not organize group activities, nothing would happen. No one seemed to reach out unless I took the lead. This led me to question why that was the case. Were we not close? Why was the responsibility on me? Reflecting on our past, I recognized that I had always been the primary initiator, suggesting that you perhaps expected me to continue that role. Maybe you lacked the initiative to make plans. At that time, I accepted this because it had not been long since we graduated, and we still seemed to share the spirit of our polytechnic friendship. Nonetheless, I felt it increasingly challenging to arrange meetups. Despite our divergent schedules, I persisted because I valued this friendship too much to let it go. I endeavored to find time to meet while you all gathered at your convenience. My rationale was that if I did not take the initiative and adjust my schedule, the meetings would never take place. So I felt I had no option but to inconvenience myself, believing that when you had more free time, you would reciprocate my efforts. At various times, I noticed a reluctance to respond from you all. I would propose plans, and you would read my messages but take days to reply. I would send follow-up texts, but this continued for several months. I recall feeling frustrated by the lack of responses, which I expressed to you all in this group. When we discussed it in person, you said I was overreacting and needed to relax. I distinctly remember hearing comments like, Stop acting like a girl. Why are you so high maintenance? The general consensus seemed to be that I could no longer expect timely responses now that we were in different life stages. So, I went back and reflected to determine if I was in the wrong. I contemplated various perspectives and tried to reach a rational conclusion. The most logical reason I could devise was that, as a foreigner, and with you as Singaporeans who have lived your entire lives here, you likely had greater familial obligations. We experienced different lives. I attempted to imagine how I would behave if I were in my home country with a foreign friend there. While this was the best explanation I could formulate, I still felt unsettled. Thus, I continued attempting to make plans whenever feasible. This marked the onset of the decline in our friendship. I exerted so much effort to maintain our connection that I came to sound desperate, suggesting that I was the only one invested in our friendship. Each time we met, and I subtly raised this issue, I received the same dismissive reaction that I was overreacting. So, I began to wonder if my tendency to overreact was simply a part of my character, and I reassured myself that you all still cared about the friendship, convincing myself I might be misinterpreting things. Even though you were occupied with your schedules, I persisted in suggesting plans at my own expense. Strangely, even after starting university, I did not feel the need to foster new friendships. I clung to my belief that I didn't need many friends, just a select few great ones. I do not recall initiating any plans with anyone from university because I genuinely felt no necessity. Why pursue new friendships when I already had you all? That was my justification. As time went on, I became increasingly desperate to hang out with you because I felt isolated after departing my aunt's home, grappling with various stressful issues. I sought refuge in our friendship, but you all were predominantly engaged with national service and university. I handled my situation to the best of my ability, spending more time alone, often sitting in playgrounds or parking lots for hours. This characterized the latter half of 2021 for me. Whenever there was a chance to see you, I seized it, often prioritizing that over work responsibilities, which were essential for my living expenses and tuition that I was struggling to cover. I incurred monetary penalties from my employers due to frequently changing plans last minute to accommodate our meetups. I justified this by believing that friendships necessitate sacrifices, brushing off these minor burdens. My desperation persisted until I felt as though no one cared any longer, or perhaps they simply forgot about our friendship. I understood you all were making new friends at national service and university, and naturally, you would spend more time with them, but I felt it unfair since I was putting in considerable effort to organize gatherings. Nevertheless, my desperation continued, causing me to compromise my self-respect further just to arrange outings. I noticed a recurring theme in your messages where you would say, "Sure, let's meet if you want." "Sure, let's go there if you want." Or, "Okay, if you want." I wondered, is this purely dependent on my desire? Am I reading too much into what you say, or do these meetups only happen because I want to? Shouldn't these gatherings be something everyone looks forward to? Why do I feel such negative energy from your messages? Am I the one being overly sensitive? Based on your feedback, perhaps I was indeed overreacting. Consequently, I carried on silently, thinking I might be overthinking it. Then I began observing statements like, "Oh, is person A going? I'll come if person B comes. I'll attend if everyone else is going. I'm too lazy to go out today." Or, "I have a body ache today." I suddenly wondered, is my company not sufficient? I had likely just worked exhausting 14-hour labor shifts before meeting. Am I not tired? Do you not recognize how much significance I place on you in my life? How does that make me feel? Is my company only valuable when others are present? I pondered this, questioning why I felt alienated. Why didn't you value my friendship? Is this how friendships operate? Is this typical in Singapore? I genuinely struggled to justify your statements. I tried to see things from your perspective, but the only logical conclusion I could reach was that you believed my friendship was inadequate, requiring more people present to deem it worthwhile. This seemed to be the most rational interpretation. At that point, my desperation likely became evident, and you began taking my friendship for granted, something for which I acknowledge my accountability. I should have taken more control. I remember discussing these feelings during a drinking session, but you simply dismissed me, saying, It's just more enjoyable when more people are around. It's not about you, you're overreacting. I questioned why I seemed to be in the wrong for everything. For every issue in our friendship, I felt like the one overreacting, and I was the only one required to toughen up. I understood I was not perfect, but it seemed unreasonable for everything to rest solely on my shoulders. Did you not consider the possibility that perhaps you needed to be more amicable and reciprocate the affection I showed? Is it too much to expect equal priority in return for the priority I granted you? Shouldn't friendship involve reciprocity? Then, I encountered a girl who left an even deeper emotional impact on me, marking the end of 2022. After that experience, I focused on self-improvement. I recognized that I had repeated the same mistakes with her that I had made with you, namely appearing excessively eager, which likely turned her off. This realization led me to reflect on my behavior and approach towards our friendship. I resolved to address my feelings of desperation by expanding my social circle and nurturing my ability to enjoy my own company. In 2023, I began making friends through internships and school, initiating activities with them while ensuring I did not exhibit that same feeling of desperation, understanding its potential negative impact. I began to cherish my solitude more. While I still made plans with you, I no longer felt the same level of desperation. I spent substantial time contemplating our friendship, and ultimately, I realized I now understood why I did not receive the same affection from you that I extended. All it took was a reality check. The conclusion was painfully simple: you did not prioritize me, even though I prioritized you. I had genuinely believed we were so close that it would be impossible for you to overlook me, but that realization, although disheartening, was liberating. I accepted. It is what it is. I cannot purchase your friendship. It should develop organically. As 2023 progressed, I noted that my perception of our friendship had diminished, having understood why you did not value me as I valued you. When 2024 arrived, I reached a turning point in my personal development. I determined that I had endured enough. The conversation about the club was the final straw after all the struggles I had faced over 6 years. I was not willing to tolerate any longer all the guilt trips, gaslighting, and the dismissive comments about being too serious. So, I decided to leave the group, a decision I had previously thought unthinkable. Before doing so, I ensured I was not misinterpreting my analysis and was justified in my feelings. My primary rationale was simple: why should I care about those who do not care about me? Do I hold any regret for my behavior and words? Yes, I do. I reflected on whether I bore any responsibility for what transpired. I acknowledge I possess a degree of ego, attributing it to my decision to leave. I deem it a healthy ego. To me, it represents self-respect. I resolved to assert that I hold significant value. I began fostering a sense of superiority in my thoughts. I told myself I would be okay without this friendship. I allowed my pride to overshadow our relationship, believing it was the right choice. Do I regret that today? Absolutely not. In the grand scheme of things, I find my actions justifiable. I believe any reasonable person in my position would react similarly. While I could have merely overlooked everything and continued as before, I do not see myself as a saint. Following my departure from the group, persons A and B reached out to me. I met with them, sharing much of what I have expressed in this message. They provided their viewpoints. Person A noted that during Polytechnic, we prioritized our Polytechnic friends, during national service, we prioritized national service friends, and so forth depending on our life stages. I do not entirely agree with that perspective. In my view, the duration and value of friendship bear significant weight. Nonetheless, I appreciated gaining insight into his perspective. Person B claimed, "We are all just lazy introverts," which perplexed me. Is it appropriate to label oneself an introvert after knowing someone for 7 years? While I valued hearing this opinion, it was something I could not comprehend. Person C sent me a message of apology. I believe he also attempted to call, but I was unable to answer. He didn't explain the purpose of calling, so I assumed it was accidental. I responded somewhat coldly, intending to hurt his feelings. Do I regret this? No. Why do I not regret my actions, which may seem inappropriate? If this had been directed at anyone else, I would feel remorseful. I have 2 possible justifications for this stance. 1. I believe you all deserve some form of stern treatment for the behavior directed at me over an extended period. In my mind, it is my moment to assert myself, and I genuinely feel entitled to do so. 2. Alternatively, I might simply have become a rather unfeeling person, only towards you, which I find oddly comforting because it brings me greater peace in life. In conclusion, do I value this friendship as much as I once did? No. Do I foresee any improvement in our friendship? You all seem to be engaged in various activities, which is nice, I suppose. What do I seek from you? Friendship, though that may be a considerable request. That summarizes how this chat transformed from being prominently featured to falling silent. If you have read this far, congratulations, it is nice to know that someone has. Story 2. I moved into a filthy rental, cleaned it, documented everything. Landlord threatened me, I took him to court and won big time. Summary: my landlord intimidated my child and attempted to deceitfully exploit me, resulting in his ultimate downfall. This narrative will be lengthy, but given the significant impact I had on this individual's life, it is warranted. Setting: the southern United States. Years 2007-2008. My former spouse and I have maintained a cordial relationship, and at the time this story unfolds, we have a 7-year-old daughter. For convenience, we have lived in close proximity, and on occasion, even shared the same residence post-divorce. Therefore, I was excited when I learned that the house across the street from him was being rented out. I was familiar with the previous residents, who were friendly, and I had visited their home a couple of times. Thus, when my partner and I arrived to inspect the property, I had a decent expectation of its condition. The landlord was present, making repairs when we arrived. Having just finished dining, I could tell he was unaware that I knew the previous owners. His large, dual-wheeled truck with his business name on it was parked in the driveway. Upon greeting us in the garage, he began fabricating stories. He described the house as his family home, emphasizing the meaningful memories and how his children had grown up there. It became evident that he was attempting to embellish the property's appeal. I decided to remain silent, as it was directly across the street from my ex-husband, and it was the designated bus stop for my daughter's school. As he continued to misrepresent, I began to lose focus. The house was in poor condition, dirty, with disgusting carpeting and peeling paint. I pointed out a broken light switch, to which he claimed that a cleaning crew would soon address the mess, repaint the walls, and replace the carpeting. The rental price was slightly higher than anticipated, but still manageable, just $200 over my expectations. With a small Australian shepherd, I would need to pay the first month's rent, the last month's rent, and a pet deposit, each totaling $1,250, which was substantial. Fast forward 2 weeks to moving day. I should have sensed trouble when I found the key left in a combination box by the door. We had already paid through a service, meaning he had our money, and we were confronted with chaos. He had done nothing except replace a set of dilapidated outdoor steps, likely mandated for liability reasons. We immediately took out a digital camera to document the state of the house. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath property with a partial basement, and we captured over 1,100 photos. Some highlights included ketchup smeared across the kitchen walls and floor. It was evident that nothing had been cleaned, and the refrigerator was in terrible shape. What appeared to be hair gel smeared in the dining room as well as just outside the bathroom door. The fireplace was encrusted with soot all the way up to the ceiling, which explained the numerous non-functional lights. He had kept it dim for showings. The garage was filled with trash. The partial basement, which we hadn't seen, was cluttered with a large saw that wasn't a selling point for us, filled with abundant mold. I called him to express my concerns, saying, "What is going on here?" He coldly replied that the money had already changed hands, and if I had issues, I should submit a maintenance request. He suggested, "I don't recall it being that bad. It seems like you made a mess while moving in." At that moment, I realized the character of the individual I was dealing with. I submitted a maintenance request regarding the mold and purchased cleaning supplies and a carpet cleaner. Having grown up in military housing, I was adept at cleaning. We got to work immediately. It took 4 adults, including my ex-husband and a friend who helped out, 2 days to make the house livable. We even replaced the broken and hazardous blinds. During this process, the landlord visited to inspect the mold, and to my disbelief, he took my paper towels and bleach spray to clean the mold he had neglected. He had rummaged through my cleaning supplies in the garage and attempted to take credit for the cleaning. That was all he contributed. 3 months later, it was time for his inspection. He claimed he would arrive the next day at 8 a.m. Instead, he showed up at 6:30 p.m. and demanded entry. When permitted inside, he began photographing the dirty dishes in the sink and the uneaten dinner still on the table, chastising me for not cleaning up after cooking. In response, I pulled out my digital camera and captured him documenting the dishes, complete with a time and date stamp. He subsequently requested to rummage through the drawers in my bedroom. I laughed at the thought of allowing him that privilege. I didn't hear from him again until it was time to move out. If you think I planned to stay longer than a year in that place, you were mistaken. He provided me with a move-out checklist that included professional steam cleaning, a meticulous clean of the entire house, and the installation of fresh pine straw for the landscaping. Every room needed to be painted wheat. When we first occupied the bathroom, it was painted bright turquoise. We got to work diligently, steam cleaning and thoroughly cleaning the premises. We took an additional 1,000 photos afterward. When he conducted his walk through inspection, he appeared furious. He even ran a white rag across the ceiling fan to check for dust. Grabbing the keys from my hand, he warned me to expect a communication regarding the return of my deposit in 10 days. That felt ominous. 2 weeks later, I received a bill for $3,750. For additional professional steam cleaning HVAC cleaning allegedly, we had not used the correct brand of wheat paint, which we absolutely did. There are 2 points I have not mentioned prior. I have a tendency to record interactions with untrustworthy individuals, and my mother happens to be a landlord in another state. She exemplifies the good type of landlord who has struggled to profit from it. If someone claimed they couldn't pay rent because they needed money for their children, she often provided them with assistance. I'm thankful she no longer engages in that business. Nevertheless, my mother was familiar with the laws and had researched details pertinent to my landlord. I decided to use my recorder and called him. He owned a real estate company that specialized in rental properties, while his wife and adult daughters managed buying and selling homes. His eldest daughter answered and transferred the call to him. The conversation rapidly deteriorated, with him accusing me of allowing my Australian shepherd to urinate in the vent grates, which was absurd, and claiming that my parenting style could be of interest to Child Protective Services. He offered a payment plan, but warned that we were nearing the point of involving collections. At one point, he denied any wrongdoing, saying, "All tenants are liars." It was a nearly 20-minute conversation filled with threats. Afterward, I called my mother, feeling genuinely rattled. Child Protective Services? Why? My mother advised me to feign compliance while demanding an itemized bill. I requested this information, and within 10 minutes I received it. As for my end, the professional steam cleaner was actually a friend of mine who provided his services at a discount. The HVAC cleaning was fraudulent. The company he cited belonged to his brother-in-law, was no longer operating, and was located in a different state. Since I had photographic evidence before, during, and after his work, I was aware he hadn't hired anyone to clean the HVAC system. The vents were painted over. In all my photos, we retained our paint receipts, along with pictures of us painting. The correct brand and color were clear in the images. I contacted his business and informed his daughter of my intention to take him to court. She was clearly unaware of her father's unethical behavior, as she did not comprehend my reference to his threats against my daughter. I then placed her on speakerphone and played a recording of him threatening to involve Child Protective Services if I didn't comply, causing her to request I stop midway through. She then placed me on hold to gather her mother, his wife. She attempted to negotiate with me, but I rewound the tape to the part where he mentioned harmful potentialities within the foster system and played it. She said they would follow up with me. And they did. The mother and eldest daughter called me on speakerphone to apologize. They outlined how the business was divided and explained they typically did not handle rental matters. I informed them that while I appreciated their outreach, I still intended to proceed with legal action against him. When the time for court arrived, we ended up in arbitration. I arrived prepared with 2 laptops to present before and after evidence, proof of his fraudulent HVAC charges, a significant collection of receipts, documentation of his illegal threats about Child Protective Services, and a solid understanding of renter rights in that state. At one point, the arbitrator inquired if I was a paralegal. He produced photographs of dirty dishes and stories about my supposedly filthy living conditions. I countered with the picture of the same sink full of dishes, along with dinner still visible in the foreground, complete with a time and date stamp. The arbitrator even questioned whether he expected me to do the dishes before eating. Even the court recorder was visibly disgusted when I shared images of the ketchup-stained walls and mold in the basement. Did you know that you can claim 3 times the amount you seek in a rental dispute, depending on state laws? It's true. I achieved that. The arbitrator described the landlord's conduct as appalling. After the session, I encountered a young couple in the hallway waiting to speak with the clerk regarding their arbitration process. I inquired if they were experiencing HVAC-related issues, and they confirmed they had. I handed over all my documentation to them, along with my contact number. Subsequently, I received several calls from other former tenants who had been victimized by his ongoing scam. The couple I had helped took the initiative to research every property listed on the landlord's website and visited each one, issuing warnings to the residents. That was a clever move I had not considered. Meanwhile, my mother was diligently filing complaints because he had registered his business as a suite, which turned out to be merely a post office box, a major violation. According to law, businesses must be physically located at an address where legal documents can be served. A year later, I observed a truck featuring his business logo driving by. However, it was no longer the large dual-wheeled truck, but rather an older Ford F-150. Curious, I looked him up in the county clerk's records. Initially, it appeared he had gone through a divorce, resulting in substantial financial loss. His house and the big truck, among other assets, were awarded to his ex-wife. She subsequently sued him for the business, allowing him to retain the name while surrendering everything else. I located the real estate website under her maiden name. She and the eldest daughter had established a new web presence. Additionally, my mother received notice that her complaints were being addressed, resulting in the suspension of his business license and a hefty fine for reinstatement. Mom kept a keen watch on property records in the area, and ultimately, only 2 of his properties remained after several were sold at auction. In summary, he was required to pay me threefold of what I had initially claimed, lost his scam operation, his spouse, his home, his vehicle, and faced a temporary suspension of his license. I bear no regrets. Story 3. Called my cousin to invite her. She said, "I'll be there," but never showed up. My daughter was crushed. Why not just text? We are finally going to address this on Tuesday, and I am apprehensive about it. My 9-year-old daughter resides with her father in a different state. She returned home for Christmas, and we held a small gathering the day before Christmas Eve so she could visit some family members and play with my niece, who is of a similar age. We were out that morning and ended up at a shopping center where my cousin and lifelong best friend is employed at a hardware store. My daughter requested if we could stop by to see my cousin, so I called her to ask if she had a moment to visit. She agreed, so we went over to see her and ended up inviting her to our gathering that evening. She appeared enthusiastic, smiling and nodding, and said, "Sure, I will be there." My aunt, her mother, texted me beforehand to inform me that she and my uncle were unable to attend. No problem, these things happen. However, my cousin simply did not arrive. My daughter was let down and asked, "Did she even notify you that she wasn't coming?" She expressed that it hurt her feelings because she was looking forward to seeing her aunt, and then she just didn't show up. She wished that her aunt had communicated that she had changed her mind, so we wouldn't have been expecting her. I was reluctant about this because my cousin and I have never had conflicts or hurt each other, but I messaged her to let her know that it hurt my daughter's feelings when she didn't inform us that she wouldn't be attending. The conversation did not go well, and that is where I might have become the wrongdoer, although I genuinely don't believe so. I doubt anyone will read all of this, but if you do, I would appreciate your thoughts. I may occasionally provide context in parentheses. Also, I will change names for the title when names are mentioned. Me, hey there, I care about you. As adults dealing with mental health issues, we have an implicit understanding and no hard feelings regarding our visiting patterns, but it's different with children. Is Aunt Cousin still coming? Did she even inform you she wasn't coming? If it's significant to my daughter and she believes you will be there, please just reach out next time to inform her if you cannot make it. It's just different for children than it is for us. Cousin, I was not aware that last night was a thing for daughter, or that she was anticipating my presence. At this point, I am puzzled. How could she not have known? She explicitly said, "I will be there," which indicates that we do think she would come. So, is she attempting to manipulate me, or does she genuinely not recall? Those were the only two scenarios I could contemplate. She has suffered a traumatic brain injury in the past and occasionally experiences memory issues, recently recalling something I never said. I also never assumed she would try to manipulate me, so I was leaning towards concerns about her memory. We discussed it at workplace, haha. Make your own pizza and hot chocolate bar at 6. We confirmed that you were fine with coming even though my mom was going to be there. Several hours pass, and I begin to doubt myself and wonder if I am recalling everything accurately or imagined the entire situation. Do you even remember our visit to workplace? You had me questioning my sanity, but I just asked my daughter, and she shares the exact memory I do of you confirming the time and then nodding and saying, "Yes, I will be there." And that was without any prompting. I simply asked, "What do you recall about our conversation with cousin the other day?" Cousin, you didn't mention it was a significant event for daughter. You acted as though it was a casual invitation that you made at the last minute. I didn't recognize it was important. Like I said, I got into a serious argument with wife and couldn't attend as a result. Excuse me for the major offense. I had texted her earlier to ask if she wanted to relax before the gathering, and she mentioned she was at home because she and her wife had a disagreement. Dude, don't react like that. It was simply because the phrase, "I will be there," made her believe you would actually attend. You know what? I will likely see if I can drop her off for a while tonight, Christmas Eve at cousin's house. I'll send the snacks. I'm merely trying to make you aware that with children, they take these matters more seriously than we do. If you say, "I will be there," then yes, they genuinely believe you are going to attend. Cousin, why aren't you coming? Are you really going to abandon your child and family on Christmas Eve because I missed one event due to very real personal issues? No. You are not understanding. It has nothing to do with you not attending the event. I'm trying to convey that it hurt, daughter's feelings when you told her you would be there and then just didn't show. She simply wished you had informed her that you couldn't make it. Your reaction is why I won't be there. Cousin, that's all you had to say, instead of condescending to me as though I snubbed her or something. If you choose not to come, that is entirely your decision and does not pertain to me. You just want to exclude anyone who disagrees with you. Kind of like this. I was attempting to explain that for just us, it wouldn't matter, but with kids, it's different, and I thought you merely hadn't considered it being significant for her. Exclude anyone who disagrees with me. Haha, okay. I'm referring to, excuse me for the major offense. I know you well enough to recognize the tone that conveys. And I never condescended to you. You attempted to inform me that you didn't know she expected you to be there, and I couldn't discern if you were manipulating me or genuinely didn't remember saying you would come. So I had to contemplate it and consult her to ensure I wasn't imagining everything. How is this excluding you? I thought we were supposed to discuss things openly. Cousin, we are, but you approached me unexpectedly. I didn't abandon you guys. I explained I had personal matters to deal with. You could have informed daughter. I literally encountered the worst argument, wife, and I have ever had, and you haven't even inquired about it. But I was supposed to suspend that and call you. That seems unreasonable. A message would have sufficed. If it weren't, I would have been upset with her mother as well. Dude, you stated you were at home because you and wife had a serious argument, not that you weren't attending. And I'm not approaching you aggressively. That's why I initially clarified that children take things like this more significantly, and that I figured you might not have regarded it due to our circumstances. Like, hey, I know you might not have considered this. That's not a hostile approach, haha. Cousin, I assumed that was somewhat evident, but honestly, let me apologize. I truly lost my temper with you because I have been overwhelmed by work stress, Mary, and other matters. I genuinely don't understand why I reacted so strongly. I know you and I understand us better than that. Why would I assume that means she wouldn't attend? People manage personal issues all the time, and for all I knew, It could have provided her with a reason to want to leave the house. Me and you don't always disclose specifics right away because you're a private individual. I understand you will discuss it when you are ready. But I apologize if I hurt your feelings by not inquiring about your argument. Cousin, please join us tonight. I haven't been consistent with my medication. I think it may have put me more off balance than I realized. I reacted strongly to wife over something minor, like shouting and cursing and just losing control. I wasn't thinking clearly. Me, it's all good, my friend, I care about you. End conversation. The most significant issue for me has been the apparent disregard for my daughter's feelings. I understand she may not have thought about it beforehand, but I explicitly informed her that my cousin hurt my child's feelings, and she seemed unconcerned. That has genuinely made me furious as a protective parent. I also disliked the way she spoke to me, but my child's feelings are my highest priority. This is not the first time my cousin has failed to attend an event she claimed she would go to. Typically, it isn't a major issue, but I will admit, it becomes tiresome. It is not difficult to simply reach out and say you cannot attend, so that way people are not left wondering when you will arrive. If you have made it this far, thank you for reading. Did I overreact? Edit to add, I apologize for any formatting issues. I uploaded this from my phone.